So we are live. It's been a while since I've been live, but I wanted to start going through and doing a weekly or is this live? Yes. Let me pull this up on YouTube. So I can, because it's not showing. There we go. Okay. Talking about business and just what some things that my goals are in business or things that I just think are interesting or doing that could be helpful to people. Well, or it doesn't really matter if they're helpful, but I think they're interesting and hopefully some people will find that helpful as well. So I'm listening to this podcast, which is very interesting because lately I haven't been listening to podcasts. I've just been doing a lot of stuff. This is the Shopify president, and it's on YouTube. This guy is The Diary of a CEO, is a channel. And I'm listening to this conversation between the president of Shopify and the guy who has this YouTube channel. And he's talking about entrepreneurship and how that's like his passion. You can tell he's very, very interested and just wants to help entrepreneurs. He wants to make it easier and simpler for entrepreneurs to run businesses. Right? Lower cost with software, right? And so the software. So this guy is you're like, oh wow, that's not what I want to do, but that guy's going to be super successful because he knows exactly where he's going, right? And that is where I was like, I should start to do these on a weekly basis or on a regular basis, because I know that there's other people out there who really, really just like business, and they may just not talk to other people about business, but they think about business on a regular basis, or at least they're in similar shoes to me that would find this interesting or whatever. So one of my goals is that I would like to get to $1 billion in a year. I'd like to make $1 billion in a year. I just think it would be fun to do that. When I was early teenager, I found out that there was a hedge fund manager that made over $1 billion in a year. I was like, damn, I want to make over $1 billion in a year. I think that would be fun, right? And so now I've started a company after a long time of not knowing what I wanted to do or choosing a direction. I would work at a job for a year and a half to 2 years, and then I'd stop and go do something else. I just was job after job after job because I was like, this is not what I want to do. And I realized that really quickly, and faster and faster I felt as time went on. Or sometimes at the beginning, I'd stay there for a little bit longer, but each time I'd change jobs, it seemed to be faster and faster until I started my own. Well, I didn't even start my own company. I've had many instances where I've played around with starting my own company, and I did it for 6 months after grad school. Then I had side hustles all the time with different businesses, but then I was working as a contractor in Hawaii, and I bought 50% of another business. This was my brother's business. It was a landscaping business, and he did 36,000 in sales the year before, right? But if you're just a solo operator, that just means you made $36,000 minus some costs. Generally speaking, if you're slightly intelligent and take care of your shit, your stuff's going to have a one-time cost to a lot of it, and then it lasts for a very long time. So you could set something with payments, or you could just acquire them as you make more cash, right? Do it in the harder way. Once you get enough cash, you buy the tools you needed. So I bought into this business after leaving Hawaii, because the Hawaii job was a joke to me. I'd be done with work by 9 a.m. I got there at 7. I'd be done by 9 a.m. And that's with partial goofing off. And I was like, what the fuck? I can't do this. How do people do this for decades? I didn't understand how people did this. I couldn't get it. And so I was talking with my brother. about business. And we talked, well, I was like, well, I know I can help you grow your business, right? And so I bought 50% of his business. And then that was, I think it was in June of 2017. I also bought something and converted it to a duplex during this time too. So I'm like learning all about construction, learning about how to do actual construction, electrical work and plumbing work, like all sorts of super interesting stuff that like you take learnings from that to apply to things that I'm doing today, even if it's just in a subtle way, depending on what it is that you're learning about, right? But I was able to get into this business with my brother in 2017, I think it was. And about halfway through the year, I moved from Hawaii to Florida, and I worked in the business with him to grow the business, right? And by the end of 2017, gross, how much sales we did was $134,000 or $36,000, right, of income that came in. Obviously, we had some costs, but we also were able to get enough cash. We were paying ourselves not much. We were paying ourselves, I think, like $500 a week or something. Not much at all, right? But we had an employee, and we bought a second truck, and we were building a cash reserve. It was a ton of work, right? But then in the next year, I was able to get it where I was like, this is not what I want to do. I don't want to do this. I don't want to build the largest lawn company. That was like something that I didn't feel that I was passionate about, building the largest law company. But I knew that building the largest something and being the best at something is what I wanted to do, right? It was just like I didn't want to build the best lawn company. And so I went back into corporate working a job. And after like the first 3 weeks, I already knew that feeling that I was like, I've had with those other jobs where I knew I wasn't going to do this job long term. Right? Like I'd get a job and I'm 30 fucking 8 years old, right? So I'd get a job, I'd be there for a year and a half to 2 years, and then I'd leave, and then I'd do it again, and I'd do it again. But in a shorter amount of time, generally speaking, it was after a couple of months, I had decided that's not what I wanted to do, but I would give it a chance, right? Well, I got to this bank in a leadership role, and within a very short period of time, I think it was in like less than 90 days, I just finished up training. And then I was like, I'm not going to do this, right? Because I just didn't feel that was the right thing for me. Given what they wanted the person to do, I was like, this is not going to work for me. This is not going to happen. And so I decided to save over 50% of what I made, a lot of times getting up over 70% of what I would make in a paycheck, right? And it was like just about 6 figures. And so I just saved that. I didn't buy myself anything. I didn't do anything. I had a car that was nearly 20 years old. And I just put all that money away. And I was like, at one point I had a YouTube channel that also generated some income. Not much, right? This is back in 2013. It's like way before anybody else was on YouTube. But I didn't ever decide to be like super consistent on YouTube. And so I knew that I made money online that way. And I knew that I didn't want to be tied to one geographic location, because another thing, I've been to like 18, I think, or 19 different countries. And I enjoy seeing other countries and learning in general. So when you go to other countries, you learn lots of new things, right? Because you might go through your day in terms of, if you go to the gym, right? That's where I go. I don't really go anywhere else, right? But if I go to the gym, or I might go to the beach, right? Or frisbee every once in a while, right? But you don't necessarily learn anything crazy new or experience anything that's not like super abnormal. That's one of the reasons why I take different routes a lot of the times to drive places. Very simply, you can just home from the gym, which is 3 minutes away or 4 minutes away. I'll take different routes to come home, just because you get to experience something different. That's how much I like to learn or see new things and just like be in life, I guess you would say, as much as possible. And when you go travel, you experience a lot more of that more often. And so I knew that I enjoyed traveling. So when I was thinking about a business, I didn't want to have a business that I felt was constraining, in the sense that I didn't want a business that was going to tie me to any one geographic region, because I like traveling and I like the idea of flexibility, right? I'm from New York, and I didn't particularly agree with the politics of New York. I also didn't agree with the taxes or regulations that went on in New York, and I didn't agree with the weather. I did not agree with the weather at all in terms of the cold. I much prefer warm weather. And so I decided to like be in Florida, right? But then there's not any state income tax. The leadership in Florida, there's at least a little bit less corruption, I would say, right? There appears to be less corruption and more like actual morals and values for things that like are slightly important. And I'm not saying that they're excellent down here either, or that I agree with everything here. But compared to New York, it's like a million times better, right? But then you think about that and you look at the world, right? And I've had that small little touch of 18 different countries, and there's like, 190 to like 206 countries, depending on who you're asking, right? Whether it's coming from the US data or the UN data. Like, I still have a lot more places to see that I also might really, really like, that the government and or leadership is even better than it is here in Florida, right? So I might like to live in different places. So when I'm thinking about this, I'm like, I want a business that allows me to do these things, that I can live in different places. Because I'm not a huge fan of taxes. I'm not really a huge fan of regulations, right? So like, why wouldn't I want to go to places that were supportive of that and support those people, right? Because I'd rather be around people who thought similarly, in the sense that I think that the world is a better place when there's more entrepreneurs, right? Entrepreneurs are the ones who solve problems. Entrepreneurs are the ones who take their little project that they just like stumble upon and try and fall forwards, right? Like they started at their home, and it's like them selling pens, and then they turn that into something else, and they turn that into something else, and they test different stuff, right? And they turn it into a business. And this is a very simple example of selling pens, but there's a lot of people who see an opportunity or a problem, and they think that they have a better solution, and then they try it out, and then they succeed, right? And so I think that there should definitely be more entrepreneurs in the world, because the world would get better faster if there was more entrepreneurs, right? And I think that is a really big piece as to why I decided to come on here and do a live, because I'm like, there's probably some other entrepreneurs that would find the story or the journey of me talking about some of the things that I'm doing interesting and or helpful, if they find some of that like long history. What's up, Isaac? I actually haven't even checked out Paul's stream yet, but I do plan on it very soon. And I've been focusing a lot on business, and I think that it's possible to build so this is what I want to work towards with this YouTube channel, and we could turn this into like maybe a movie or something eventually, and or a book, right? But I think it'd be fun to talk about building a business to $1 billion, right? Starting from where I'm at, right? So last year, I think in terms of, I had a couple companies, right? So in terms of total gross, maybe like 250, right? And then this year, I'm tracking for more than probably a 15x on that. My goal is 7.5 million for this year, right? So I've been able to grow gross sales across the top substantially, from like maybe say 30,000 in December to this month we'll probably hit about 2. I'd like to hit 200, but we're honestly tracking for a little bit under 200. So I'm actually testing something out with email blasts with 3 consecutive days, which is something I've never done before in my business. or this other business that I just bought. So I've got an email list for my business. It's like about 10,000 people, and then the email list for this business that I just bought, I think there's about 5,300 people on their list. And so if you have two companies, one of the interesting synergies that you, I had already thought about this because I've thought about like, how could I help more people or talk to more people that I thought were like interesting, who enjoyed business. And so I was like, well, I could do a mastermind, or I could do like coaching to like help other people to get better, right? With whatever it is. And I think that this is a good outlet to hopefully bring value in that direction, right? So one of the interesting benefits though is that when you have two companies, like I do email marketing, right? So there's two parts to like email marketing from where I'm at in terms of my understanding, right? You have something as in like emails that you can set up that will go to customers or people who have like fallen out of the process of like an abandoned cart or something. And it says, hey, you forgot your card. You've probably gotten those ones, right? But there's other ones like your birthday, or you can also be more creative and think of like, hey, normally when people buy, let's say, a peptide, you get bacteriostatic water, right? Because you need those two to go together. So like if you bought one thing and then you got another email that says, oh, hey, you forgot to get this, right? Do you want to change your order? And that's actually a really good idea to set up one of the flows for this all. If you're watching this and you're watching a future episode, I'm going to write that down actually really quickly to create a flow for emails after someone, because I think you can target like this, which is crazy because I guarantee nobody else is doing this. Create a flow so when someone buys, sorry about that, that doesn't have back. Ask for it. Okay, thank you for that. That was probably very, that'll be interesting to watch, have somebody make a video of that in a few years. Okay, so when you set these things up, right, these email flows of like when people will have triggers, right, then you go to another company and there's no flows there, but you get to see tracking that their email flows are bringing in thousands of dollars, right? Like thousands of dollars every 30 days. You see that the emails that you set up where they go out with another link to the customer, like, hey, you forgot that you had this in your cart, right? Finish your transaction. You're like, I never click on those. Well, there is a lot of people that do click on those, right? Like, I don't know what the percentage is. I can probably pull it up and actually tell you. Like conversions, I guess. Is that one? So conversions on one of my stores is 7.6, and that's the one that I haven't optimized yet. Like I think I can get that better. The one that I have more optimizations with is 8.4. It also does a lot more revenue, like substantially a lot more. But I can take all those flows that I use on one company and just dump them onto the other company because I know they're adding value, right? So that's one of the additional benefits of buying a company. That like when you go through and buy a company, you probably think of like, you probably heard of private equity or like maybe Wall Street type things where they buy companies, or Facebook announces that they bought an Oculus, or like Instagram, right? Or when Google bought YouTube, right? You hear about these acquisitions, right? And you don't think about this thing really, right? But did you know that all the large companies, Tesla, Amazon, Google, Facebook, Netflix, et cetera, all of these companies are buying other companies every single year, multiple ones. Like the last time I looked into this was a long time ago. But that at that time, I think it was probably at least maybe 10 years ago, maybe in grad school. That's when I was looking this up. And there was, at that time, it was around 100 companies that Amazon had bought in the last year. That was then. That was like about 10 years ago. You think they're buying more companies per year? Yeah, they're buying a fuckload more companies, right? Because that's how they get bigger, where you can add the synergies, right? Like I have email flows. This company doesn't, right? And if I added that up, and I might be able to pull this up, and I don't think I'm going to show the analytics yet. We maybe can do that in a future episode. Where they tell me the dollar amounts, right? So I haven't sent these flows up at the other company yet. Let's see here. The flows, why is it generating? Okay, so I guess they're still not set up because I had to redo my whole site. So like, I don't know if they're set up on this side, but let's say it's around 10 grand. Given a certain amount of traffic, they generate about a quality of customer, right? They generate about 10 grand. So say you implement them over there and it only generates $5,000. Great. You had software that you did over here by creating an email, right? An email flow. You go from boom to boom to boom. That's all it is. You just set that shit up, right? And it's generating you at this company $10,000 based upon how much traffic's coming in at the top. That one little thing generates $10,000 per month. Right? So now you take that, you apply it over here, and there's less traffic over here. But well, I haven't checked the traffic. There might be less traffic. I know that there's a lot less sales, right? So I'd assume there's less traffic, but there could be more traffic because the site is utter garbage. It is crap. And that's going to be also another thing that I'm optimizing too, to get it better, to like massively improve this. But one of the ways I'm like, my goal is to get to $1 billion, and I think I can do it in 5 years. Maybe that sounds aggressive to like other people, but I feel like it's 100% possible. Doesn't seem that crazy though. Definitely seems possible. 5 years is like a decent amount of time, right? So I'm like, how can I do that? And I think about like sales in two ways. You can increase sales organically, right? Like everybody talks about this strategy and that strategy to increasing sales, right? And they're like, Alex Hermosi talks about how he can go through and you can sell more to every single existing customer. You can get them to buy more and something else, right? These are all different tactics, right, related to like sales for organic, right? So you get organic growth, you grow, right? Whatever tactic you take that works, and you make money that way. And there are a lot of tactics you can try, and you can continue to get better if you're open-minded enough to willing to try different things on a regular basis, right? Like you're bound to get better, period, right? But another way to get growth, right, that he doesn't talk about or other people don't talk about, except for there's this lady, Cody Sanchez talks about buying small businesses, right? But she doesn't talk about how to go from where you're at to just building a giant company. But like, I don't know anybody else that talks about that. Like, if you guys are aware, somebody share with me. I don't know anybody else that talks about like, hey, let's build a giant company, right? Not that $1 billion is that much, right? In the grand scheme of things, it's really not. It's a fucking tiny little bit of like, but then maybe from $1 billion to 10 billion, right? Like we could continue this journey, right? Potentially, if I want to do that, or maybe there's something else I want to do. But either way, it's going to be fun, and I'm going to want to be the best at whatever it is. So if you enjoy that shit, continue listening, right? But I think to go to $1 billion in 5 years, one of the things that has to happen, right? I got to find an operator that is going to be really focused on growing organically. And I still be the person that is in charge, but they're running everything. They're like running the day-to-day and testing different strategies out and emails and that kind of thing. And I'm still playing a big role, right? But I feel as though, and I'm not sure what I need to do this yet. And I'm sure like I need to be buying more companies, right? This is the third one I've done, not including like if I include other things that are like smaller or less like formal, but I've done other types of investing. And like, yes, I've been able to 10x the revenue, right, in a short period of time in my company in a year, right? But I think that I can, not that you can do it both ways, right? I choose to, I think I at this moment, I might change my mind that I want to just build one brand, but I think I can bring in multiple brands and apply the learnings that I have from one brand to another brand to grow it faster. And through the process, I have to find synergies to like increase growth at both companies, as well as ways to like lower costs, think larger purchase amounts so you get economies of scale. Maybe some crossover in other areas like sales or marketing or things you've learned, right? And I think looking for ways to find those opportunities I feel like that's a very, very valuable thing that needs to be done, right? To get to $1 billion, like I want to make $1 billion myself, period. Like I don't care because I want to, I think it'd be fun, right? To make $1 billion sounds like something fun to do, right? I just think it'd be interesting to do. And plus then there's like a lot of people that I like to help in different ways, but we can get into that at a different time. But like there's a lot of other people that I'm close to that I care about that I'd like to help in different ways. So that's important to them, right? Because then I can help those other people. So the money would allow me to do that and also do more of that, which is finding additional companies to integrate into my company in a way that allows me to utilize the synergies to accelerate the growth of the new company that beyond, right? Like, so say like last year, right? So say last year I was doing probably, what month is this? May, maybe $6,000 or $7,000, right? $6,000 or $7,000 in a month. Right now, this month I might do a little I'd like to do over 200,000, right? So I'm working towards over 200,000. It's going to be very close. I had my site taken down, so that really that had a big impact. But I could have been doing definitely more emails, which would have been impactful to probably put me over the top. And that's what I'm actually testing this weekend is a 72-hour sale with an email every 24 hours. And I'm going to see how that performs. Because I think if it performs well, then I think that could put me over 200,000. But I've never tested something like this before, so I'm going to test it because I would like to get over 200,000. And if I'm going to continue doing this kind of stuff, putting the people in place to do things. Like I just hired several people for different things, not like in a frivolous way, but they just happened to be several things came together at the same time, right? Like somebody for customer service, right? Because like getting into the emails and just answering people's questions is like, it needs to be done. And I wasn't choosing to spend as much time on it as I think that would be valuable to do. So having hired somebody for customer service frees up my time. Yes, I still spend time on it, but I talk to the person every single day, but now they're answering like a shitload of the questions, which is very helpful. I'm going to bring them on board with the second company so that I won't have to take the time up over there immediately, which is helpful because then it's I can focus more on the things that I should do, which I think finding another company to buy and integrate to grow faster in a synergistic way is one of the most valuable things that I can do to grow the company. So I think finding an operator who is interested in doing the things of like growing a brand, but then potentially having to work on like multiple brands at the same time as we build more like that type of role, I feel like would be valuable to find. Maybe that's the combination of both, and I split the time between, because I do think it's a valuable skill too. So to split the time between 50% of that and 50% into by finding companies or something. But that is the cool part about doing this live, is because as I learn more or test different things, I'll share them with you guys. And as I find new companies, I will share them with you. I do have potentially another deal coming up on June 1st, where I'm not buying the company, but if I'm able to help increase the revenue, right? Because let me give you an idea of what's going on. If you're in a market that is growing at a good rate, like say 6 or 7%. So that's not like a fast growth, but like if you think about 6 or 7% over not too long of a time, it's pretty substantial, right? For a lot of things, right? And if you're in a market that is growing like that and you are declining, you, my friend, are not doing what you need to do to grow. The tide is coming in. And the cliche that like when the tide comes in, it lifts all boats. Yours is not lifting because you're not putting in the effing fucking work, right? So that's where this guy's at in his business. He's an older gentleman. And he's got debt. And he's getting more debt because his business is declining. Crypto Compassion. Hey, good. What's Gucci? Great to see you. It's been a while since I've seen you in the comments. It's been a while since I've been on YouTube doing a live. So good to see you, bro. Hope you're doing well. And if I'm able to grow his business by 25%, right? So say, for example, I don't know the exact numbers, but say, for example, it was $200,000 last year. And he lost money, $200,000. What's the problem? He's probably paying too much for a lot of shit, right? That don't necessarily need to be there, but maybe not. The real problem is money's not going up. You want money to go up, right? Not just sales. You want the money that you get to also go up, right? I want the money, right? I think that I can do a lot of really cool, good things with that money, right? But I just want cool fucking shit too. I think it would be cool to have a penthouse. Cool. Maybe I want houses all over the place. I don't know. Maybe I don't. But I'm not there yet until I get there, and I'm living that lifestyle. I'll tell you guys. But I do. I also do like real estate investing, which I have multiple properties. But I can talk about that in a separate video. Or let's see, what time is it? Fuck, it's 10 o'clock. I can go to bed. But that is something else that I also like to do very quickly. And then maybe I'll come on again at some point in the next week or two, where not only am I able to grow his business by 25%, but in so doing, I am able to get 10% of the income of the sales during that time period, right? So say he's at 200,000, and I'm able to grow it to 250, which is 25%. I get $5,000 in a quarter, right? That's a bonus. That's not much money, like $5,000, right? It's not much money, but it's also not a tremendous amount of work that I have to do, right? Because he's not on Instagram, he's not on. And maybe that's a foolish thing to say. Actually, I should take that back. Because when you say that, your expectations are that it's not going to be a lot of work. But there's also the decent chance that it could be more work than I'm thinking it is to do so. But I don't have any cash on my pocket, right? And I'm going to be using this business, like the other business, because I already did business with that guy. And I'm going to increase my business, which then I also get the benefit of the increase in his business from my business indirectly by growing his business, right? Because I'm doing business with him. My business is growing. So as a byproduct of just being slightly close to me, you get to make more money, right? If you want to be warmer at the bonfire, what do? Move closer to the fire. So the people that are closest to me get that benefit. They make more money. Right? Their lives improve, their relationships improve, their health improves, right? Their mental state improves. So that's what I'm focusing on, right? Not only did I get 10% of the increase, but I also get 12.5% of the business, right? Yes, crypto compassion. I get 12.5% of the business. So at each incremental 25% growth, I get another 12.5%, right? And 10% of the increase, right? So at 300,000, right, then I get $10,000 per quarter, right? And another 12.5%. And at what is, I think, 350, right? At 350, right? I get 15,000 per quarter. Now it's 5,000 per month. Now 5,000 per month, that's cool, right? 5,000 a quarter, yeah, that's. Hey, I'll take it. I'll fucking take $5,000 a quarter for sure. But 5,000 a month is also very cool, right? But it would also be cooler if it was bigger too, right? So then getting it to double. So go from 200,000 in sales to 400,000 in sales, right? For his business. Then I'm getting 20,000 per quarter, or 20,000 actually, that might be per annual if I'm thinking about it that way, actually. So the numbers are actually super tiny then. The better example would be if he makes 200,000 per quarter, then those would be accurate. But if he does 200,000 annually, then those numbers would be divided by 4, right? And I don't have the total numbers, but I think his annual numbers are actually 200, right? So if you divide that by 4, then that's $1,500. Yeah, that's not a lot of money. But I also don't believe, and I could be wrong, that it's going to be a lot of work. I think the biggest part of this process to get him to grow 25%. Right. So think of this is my strategy for this. Okay. He's 65. He wants to retire. His debt is going up, right? His business is declining. He wants to retire. He doesn't have any money in retirement, and he doesn't have money in savings. He rents, right? Not that there's anything wrong with renting at all, you know. But if you want to retire and you're 65 and your debt is increasing and the amount of money you're making is decreasing, like you're in a bad spot. And so the biggest impact, because he's been doing it for 7 years now. So the biggest impact is not going to be somebody who doesn't own a business. Well, actually, in this case, it will be, ironically, right? Normally, it's not going to be that. But indirectly, it is. Because he holds the keys to the growth. I just need to unlock them. So I unlock the growth within him. Business grows super fast. And so one of the things that I'm working on him with, and this is not like what I'm telling, well, I think I did mention like holding him accountable, or like, I don't know if I mentioned coaching, but maybe like holding him accountable. I did mention something along those lines. I was like, one of the benefits is going to be me doing those types of things now. And since we're working in this and we're doing a lot more business together now because my business is growing, I just need to do more business. He's like a service provider, right? That I just use, right? Not that there's one cheaper than the other; they're all basically the same. I'm able to hold him accountable more because I'm seeing him more often, and I've already seen changes, right? So we're going to start probably on June 1st. So in the first quarter, I'm going to be adding a lot more business because we haven't been tracking it. And like, in the last like 90 days, I've really accelerated, right? But his business is so declined. So like one of his customers is growing, but overall his business is declining, right? And so getting him to talk to more customers. Nobody knows who the fuck you are if your sales are declining. Get the fuck out of here if it's something else. This, that, and the other thing. Just bro, if you're at $200,000 and you're in a service business, nobody knows who the fuck you are. Period. Like you're fucking a nobody. You're making $200,000 a year. Like that means diddly fucking squat. You know? And when you're in that type of business and you're doing zero to try to grow the business, yeah, of course it's gonna fucking decline. No shit. But here's the thing. And this is what I'm working at with him. If I can get him to take one action every day to grow the business. And I told him, I was like, hey, if we're gonna do this on June 1st, like, yes, this is what I'm getting. I'm getting the 10% of the increase and I get 12.5% of your business, right? So that means if I'm able to double your business, I get 50% of your fucking business. But right now your business is worth doing fucking squat. So I'm going to be the one who's holding the reins to get you to do that, to like grow. But you're also in a fucking bad spot because you have not been doing this. Your debt is going up. You're older, right? You're 65 fucking years old and you don't have any money in retirement or savings or investments. Like you're in a not good spot. You've not done good things in like that direction in a while, right? So getting him to take one action per day, one tiny action is talk to a new customer. That's all I'm asking him to do. It's just one to start to talk to more customers, like go to see people, text your customers, talk to more people, right? Because that's going to be what's going to expand the business. So yes, I can get him his website, I can get the Instagram, I can get the Twitter, right? I can start posting stuff on that, right? That could be helpful, right? That could definitely help 100%. But talking to people in person is extremely valuable in terms of creating impact, right? And so when you don't have like a giant following online and you're not dumping money into it, right? And you're not like, don't already have some brand out there, generally speaking, the impact to start with, it tends to, from my experience, there could be other ways to create impact a lot faster, and being able to utilize what I do in my business from a marketing standpoint could definitely be applied to like grow it faster, 100%. But some of those things cost a little bit of money. They wouldn't be paid for at first, right? So it'd be like time consuming in that sense. But the biggest thing that in terms of impact is going to be him getting to take action every day, like just a tiny bit of action, because you know what happens when you do that? Like amazing, beautiful things happen and you make progress. Because you just take one step, right? So me getting him to take one step forward every day is actually going to probably be the biggest impact on the business. Not me building fucking a website for him, not Instagram, not Twitter, but me helping or encouraging or manipulating him, whatever it is I need to do in a positive way to get him to take whatever actions he needs to take. Right? I'm not telling him what actions he needs to take. I just listen to what he says and then ask him, hey, are you going to take that action? You said this is the most important thing, right? You have to be honest, right? What do you believe is the most important thing in your life that you need to take action on? People don't ask themselves that. Ask it every day. What is the most important thing you need to work on? Ask yourself that. What is it, right? What is the most important thing that I need to work on to grow my businesses faster? Maybe that is how we will end every show, right? What is the thing that I need to be working on right now to grow the business the fastest? And I think implementing the things that I talked about in this video in regards to the email marketing stuff, completely redesigning the new business's website. So I got to redesign that business's website, and I can start that process tomorrow. And that should be probably like $700 or something like that to get that done. And hopefully that can be done and live by like mid next week, right? Tomorrow's Saturday. So it's Memorial Day on Monday, but I'll be working on Monday. I don't know how, if other people choose not to work, but I like to work. So I don't take days like off. I mean, like I might go on trips and stuff like that, but I still like to work. It's, well, I enjoy it, you know, to make progress in it. So, more specifically, what do I need to work on? I need to set up the email flows for my company because I had to redo the website. I need to set up the flows for the other company. I need to also, I think this will be very impactful, is email both email lists, right? And you can kind of use the same copy potentially, or similar copy because they're very, very close in terms of companies. Do those things. And another thing that I'm going to implement that I think can also be very valuable is cross-pollinate the businesses, meaning tell this business customers about this business as an affiliate, right? So I have 10,000, I think it's like 98 or 99. Hey Leo, crypto, keep the design. I look forward to talk with you future. Yes, awesome. Hey Leo, what's Gucci? What's Gucci? Yeah, so I think through this process, I'm also going to talk about taxes as well. Because I think a lot of people think taxes are like more complex than they need to be. I think that I personally believe, because I see this in family members' businesses, I think that certain businesses, if you live in this environment of the United States, don't pay attention to their taxes enough, and they pay more taxes than they need to. And that's okay. It's not like the worst thing to do, but you're overpaying on something you don't need to overpay on that you don't get any value from, right? Is how much value do you get from having money and then not having any money? Like, how much value do you get from that? I'm guessing not much. That's what happens when you pay taxes. Not fucking much. You can argue however much you want, right? Government's fucking corrupt. Period. Across the board, whether it's in this country or in another country, right? The US is cool. I like the US, right? But other places are also cool, right? Seems to be doing a good PR, job with very successful in a lot of different ways over the years, but I'm not sure. We need more entrepreneurs. It goes back to the beginning part of the video here, but I'm going to do my part here. And I think if you want to build something big, paying too much in taxes is a foolish thing to do. Like, why wouldn't you want that money you're going to give to taxes? The government that's going to fucking squander your money. It's going to send it to another country, right? Ukraine has received $115 fucking billion. Why? Paying off their bribes, right? Like, why is this going on right now? It's not like a fruitful use of money. I would rather pay lower taxes and utilize my money in an intelligent, thoughtful way instead of wasting it and paying off fucking bribes. No, thank you. And there's a lot of things that can be done to reduce taxes. Like the thing that I'm also working on too, that I would love to have, that I'm going to have later this year, is buying a warehouse, right? I like to buy a warehouse, but I also like to buy like a 20 unit or bigger multifamily property, because then at 20 units, I want to hire somebody to run the property, because I don't particularly want to run the property, and still be able to get cash flow from it. But like the warehouse is going to store my businesses, right? But then I have another business that's going to be starting that I also want to put into this warehouse, right? So it's going to hold all three businesses. All three businesses are going to pay this rent, right? So it's not going to generate outside capital, but it will provide the base, right? And maybe there's a creative way where I can lower costs more. If it's a big warehouse, I can rent it out to other people potentially if I don't need the space initially. Right? I can rent it out to other people to subsidize the cost. So that would probably be a strategy. I know another business owner who wants more space, but is woodworking, right? So he wants more space. And if I bought a warehouse and I could put on, add an addition on for maybe 10 grand of just a 2-car garage, right? So if there's already a foundation there, which you can think of as a large driveway, like if there's a large driveway around it, I could potentially add a 2-car garage onto like a commercial piece of property, and utilize that to rent out to him so he can run his workshop out of there, and then use the other part of the commercial building to operate some businesses out of there. But that's how I'm thinking about the warehouse piece. But one of the big benefits that I also want with the real estate is that if you're not big into real estate investing, real estate investors don't like pay taxes. Donald Trump is an example. You don't really have to pay taxes in the same sense that like people who put their money or time into other things have to pay because of depreciation. Depreciation doesn't have to like be super complex, but it is definitely complex to people who don't understand depreciation. But you take a property and you spread the cost out over a certain period of time. That's like the simplest definition of what depreciation is, right? If something costs $10,000 and you split it up over 5 years, then that's $2,000 of depreciation per year, right? That's how you can think about it, right? And people understand to that level, right? But once you think about depreciation, after the beginning of acquiring this thing, right, whatever it is, there's not necessarily $2,000 of cash flow. So what you have happening is a discrepancy between cash flow and expenses. That's where that opportunity is, right? So if you can increase your expenses legally, but they're fake expenses. Depreciation is not a cash flow expense. It's a made-up expense. The IRS, right? You're recognizing the cost of the thing that you purchased over a period of time, like an asset of some sort. The computer is $3,000, right? So say you split that up over 18 months. And you don't take that all in year one. You could potentially, but maybe it's split over 4 years. I don't know. For 3 years, you take $1,000 expense per year, right? But you paid the cash up front. But that means next year you have $1,000 expense that's not really there, so you don't have to pay taxes on $1,000 that comes in next year because of the $1,000 that was the laptop expense that was spread out over 3 years, right? So when you buy commercial real estate, well, you can do this. It has to be money generated when I say commercial, but like you can buy a piece of real estate that is there to make money and do something called a cost segregation study. And to do a cost segregation study, let's start with the depreciation. So like if you bought a property and you were going to depreciate like a single family home, right? But it's a rental. You depreciate that over 27 and a half years, right? So that's a long time to spread your expense over, right? So you figure $275,000 house spread over 27 and a half years. That's a $10,000 expense per year, I believe, right? So like if you're making 100 grand and you're in, let's just assume the 25% average tax rate. that means that you'd pay $25,000 in taxes, right? But if you had $10,000 in depreciation from a rental property that offset your income, then you're only taxed on $90,000. So the extra $10,000 you didn't have to pay taxes on was fake. You still got the cash, but it was just fake, right? So you take that $10,000 now and get to keep it, right? Or that, well, you get to keep the taxes you would have paid on that $10,000 is actually what happened. So that $10,000 you don't have to pay taxes on. What does that equate to in tax savings? Of additional dollars in your pocket, about $200 a month you make more of, right? You make $200 more a month, or $2,500 a year is in your pocket, right? So you're like, wait a second. What if I could increase depreciation even more? Because then if $1,000 or $10,000 saved me $200 a month, $5,000 or $50,000 in expenses, that would save me 10 grand. I'm sorry, that would save me $1,000. Right? Am I doing that right? No, I think they're $12,500, right? So 50 grand in expenses times $12,500, so $1,000+ per month. If I can save another $1,000 a month and put it into my pocket and not have to pay the government, gosh, that's a good idea. So you can do a cost segregation study on these commercial real estate places, where you can take the average appreciation from 27.5 years and compress that down, say it's 10 years, right? So now you can take, if your property costs $275,000, you were taking 1/27th of that, then now you're actually going to be able to take, if the average was 10 years, you'd be able to take $27.5 thousand in taxes, right? Or that would come off the top in terms of you would not have to pay taxes on 27,500. That's pretty substantial. So I want to buy a commercial property to utilize that, and I will do a new episode of this hopefully next week or two. Peace.